Welcome to the AZ Political Podcast. I'm Jim Sharpe, and this week's headlines. Headline number one, between October 9th and 13th, over 5 short days, Arizona will have had visits from Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, Vice President Kamala Harris, and former President Donald Trump, all 4 of the nominees in the race for the White House. I'm guessing that between now and Election Day, your chances of swinging a dead cat and not hitting a candidate is pretty low. Headline number 2. Here's probably why they're all visiting. Arizona voters started receiving their early ballots this week. And a statistic that ABC News political analyst Stephen Roberts told me explains why they're mining every single vote. In 2016, listen to this. If things would have gone slightly different in 3 states and 80,000 voters would have switched sides, Hillary Clinton would have won. In 2020, if 44,000 voters switched, Trump wins. And headline number 3, in case you missed it, you can watch Arizona's U.S. Senate debate between Kari Lake and Ruben Gallego on the KTAR YouTube channel. And you can also let my guest on the AZ Political Podcast, which is Mike Noble, help you make up your mind. Mike is the founder and CEO of Arizona-based polling firm Noble Predictive Insights. I'm kind of wondering how you came up with that name.
Just hit me one time.
And predictively, did you know I was going to ask that question?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah,
all
absolutely.
Right.
And by the way, I love to start. By the way, in the 2016 election, it was the presidential race wasn't decided by 80,000. It's actually 70,000, so even closer.
Really?
Than that. 70,000 2 presidential cycles ago. Last one, very much 40,000. But crazy how close these races are.
I know, it really is. So what you're telling me is Steve Roberts is lying to me?
Not lying. I'm just saying that sometimes it's easy. When you're dealing with all these numbers, it's like, a 7 and 8. I get it.
Let's just get to the question.
Okay, got it.
So in the U.S. Senate debate, there was a lot of rippage, as I called it. You had Ruben Gallego ripping Kari Lake for lying and not supporting abortion. You had Lake ripping Gallego for everything. Do personal attacks really help a candidate's number? I guess in some ways, if they didn't, they would have stopped using personal attacks back when we had a Whig party.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and you get that a lot. So personal attacks, it depends on what the attack is. If the attack seems to voters, and we've done plenty of polling and focus groups on this, if the attack seems that it's more like based in fact, that they'll pull it up, but if it's kind of more... It seems more visceral or personal, like very personal.
Yeah.
Like you attacking one's kids, for example, or bringing family into it. Voters will kind of get pushed off. And so they like it when you're debating or attacking on, let's say, the issues or what's fair game. But it actually ends up pushing voters away because you don't want to come off as being nasty. It's like a bully. No one likes bullies.
Do you feel like Kari Lake in some ways came off as nasty? I know that Ruben Gallego in the after debate gaggle, I think he actually used that word, nasty.
So I watched the debate, and what was interesting is that Ruben, I think they're different styles. I thought Ruben did a good job keeping his composure because he definitely got attacked multiple times. But also, I think the big thing is that when he was sharing, Lake kind of kept interjecting when he was trying to share, and I think overall did a pretty good job of not engaging with it. There's 1 or 2 times he kind of took the bait. And I think my perspective is I felt like Lake was kind of really going out of her way to attack where Ruben was trying to address some of the issues, especially when calling around some of the facts that are out there with, like, let's say the current lawsuits and things that are going on with the previous election and run for governor. Didn't address those at all and kind of just kept going back to the attacks. But it just seemed like Lake just came off a little bit nastier than Ruben did. And I think that probably plays a factor.
Which, it's hard to get down and dirtier and nastier than a Marine who's been in combat, right? So
I know. That's why for him keeping his composure was impressive. You'd think he'd just get right back into it with her. But
so let's jump to that because I wanted to talk about Gallego's performance because he looked nervous. I felt like he looked nervous in this debate. And I kind of said the same thing about his speech at the Democratic National Convention, which, by the way, was preceded just a couple of hours before with the one-on-one interview I did with Ruben Gallego, where he seemed absolutely comfortable, and kind of. So is it just that type of setting where there's a big audience, maybe a debate stage? It's just not really his gig?
Yeah, I mean, is it? I'd say for 95% of people out there, is that their gig? No. I mean, think about it. You're standing on this podium.
Right, but
live recorded. I mean, you got all these people watching.
But I'm not running for political office, or the average person's not running for political office.
It's true. I mean, remember, Ruben going into that debate, remember, he's currently up roughly about, on average, look at any poll, it's about 7 points, the average right now on the race. But then also he has a 4-1 money advantage in the race. I mean, for him, he's in a really good position. Frankly, for Ruben to go in there is, don't screw this up.
Right.
Like, try not to make a big
Play
gaffe.
prevent defense.
Yeah, don't have like a Marco Rubio moment or something, the drinking the water, something of that effect. So nervous-wise, yeah, I think he was a little nervous going into that. But also I think he definitely had more to lose going into that debate than I would say Lake. And Lake, given the position she is in the race, I think like she really didn't have much to lose, frankly, going and everything to gain going into that debate.
Yeah. It seemed that no matter what the topic was or the question asked by the moderator, Lake always brought it back to the border.
Yes.
But a new Emerson College poll shows that immigration has supplanted the economy as the top issue for Arizona voters. Is your polling showing the same? And if it is, was this a wise strategy by Lake?
Yeah, I can't speak for Emerson. I know for us with our tracker poll, it's been consistently inflation has been the number. Basically, the top 4 issues of this. You have inflation, immigration, housing affordability, and then abortion. Immigration is very much driven by Republicans. Abortion is very much driven by Democrats. But the 2 pocketbook issues, I mean, are what is key for independent voters. But when you look at independents, immigration is more important than abortion. It's like 46% of independents think of immigration a main issue, where abortion's like 28%. So when you look at the key ones, like immigration's big, but I'd say it's immigration and the pocketbook issues and abortion are really the main 4.
So was it then, do you think, a wise strategy for Lake to bring it back to, I mean, I guess probably the number 2 topic she tackled was the economy.
Yep.
So was this interrupting and immigration debate for her a wise approach?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's frankly her, when we've polled on the issues, like where do voters trust her the most, she didn't really have a big edge on any issues, but the one she had the best advantage, she was +2 overall on immigration. So it's kind of her signature issue. So she's trying to lean into that one because she knows she's stronger. And it was interesting with the debate because I thought she did a good job, though, frankly, when it came to telling some personal stories, like talking about inflation, about costs, like, hey, Arizonans are out here because they enjoy the low cost of living out here in the Southwest. Aside from our weather, she didn't say that, but cost of living for sure. Yeah. And so I thought she did a good job of telling stories, but the thing is, I think the issue was she kept kind of interjecting on time and kind of going over where, just kind of breaking all the rules.
Yeah, but she's not really known for keeping her opinion to herself. And
correct, she's a firebrand.
In fact, what was it, a year ago, maybe a little longer, something like that, at Sky Harbor Airport? A lot of people know this about her, but some people don't. She spends a lot of the time just walking around in society, mic'd up, and
cornering people coming out of bathrooms.
And she did that to Ruben Gallego at Sky Harbor, right?
Imagine catching your opponent, you're coming out of the restroom, or you're trying to catch a flight and be like, "Hey," and a camera in your face. I mean, just wow. Again, but elections are getting a little crazy these days.
But I think the big question, the first question I would ask if that was the encounter I had, is be like, did you wash your hands, Ruben?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Hey, can I check? Check you. That could have done him in.
So, longtime Arizona political consultant, very respected guy, Chuck Coughlin, said to me this morning, and Jamie West on Arizona's Morning News, that probably very few people who are undecided watched this debate. It was mostly people who are, I already know I'm voting for Ruben Gallego, or I already know I'm voting for Kari Lake. Do you agree with that assessment? And do you agree that maybe not a lot of minds were changed last night?
Well, I would say there's some truth to it. I think of the total audience share, I'd say, yeah, majority probably had their opinion made up. However, I guarantee you there's a chunk of that audience that was undecided or not sure based on where they were sitting at, especially with the U.S. Senate race, because people are ingrained in, yes, on the presidential contest, sure. There's like 3% of people undecided in the state. But in the Senate race in general, I mean, it's closer to 10. Like, there's definitely some undecideds on there. So, again, there's just the type of voters out there. Sure, majority there, but I think it's unfair to say it's not changing any minds, because absolutely has an impact. And again, that'd be nice to do a post-debate exit survey, because you can do a pre and post and then see, hey, did that change your mind or not? Which, again, we just don't have the data to support it, but I would argue that, it's not all the same class of people.
No, you're a data guy. I get that.
Wow, I think it's unfair, because it's like, well, no one watches. Well, then it disenfranchises people to watch. Like, well, people are minds made up, and it's like the Senate. I think there's definitely more people undecided. On the presidential, sure, yeah, trying to find an undecided voter is better luck winning the lottery.
So, speaking of numbers, you did a great job on this. So. When you were on Arizona's Morning News with me and Jamie the other day, right before the debate, the morning of the debate. So can you explain again why Lake trails Trump and Gallego outperforms Harris? Like they're the standard bearer for their party. Why don't they just, aren't they in just exactly the same groove?
Yeah. So, all right. So the issue is this. So like in our last poll and other polling showing it too, Trump is kind of the best performer on the Republican side. So Trump head to head against Harris he's +3. He's +3 overall. Then you look at generic. So you take out the personalities, generic Democrat, generic Republican. What's like the baseline? It's Republican +1. Then you inject personalities for Rubin and Lake. It is Lake down 7. So there is about a 10 to 11 point disparity between Trump and Lake. And a lot of people say Lake is the Trump of Arizona. That's true, and it's not. It's true that she has all the baggage Trump has, but doesn't have any of the wins or the policy wins that Trump has.
Nor any of the election wins.
Correct. And there's a trust issue. We found there's two main factors. One is trust. When you look at trust, only 64% of Republicans trust Lake on abortion, because she's moved her position multiple times of where she has on that issue. So only 2/3 trust her. But when it comes to Democrats' trust of Rubin on issues, his worst number on any given issue with his base is still higher than Lake's best number among her Republican base. So there's clearly this trust issue. And the other factor is that she's very known, and less like overall with the electorate in Arizona, she's about negative roughly 15 points underwater. So among those that have an opinion, that's negative. But Rubin, he's basically the opposite. He's like plus 15. So they're both defined, one negatively, one positively. The difference is Lake has less room to grow because she's pretty well known. Rubin still has a little room to grow, and that's where. That's just a tough spot.
He's not better known than Harris, though. I mean,
no.
A lot of people would say that. Well, we didn't know anything about.
He's way outperforming Harris. Yeah, he's absolutely outperforming Harris.
Yeah.
So like Harris, so Biden carried Hispanic Latinos, key swing demographic group in her state. He carried Hispanic Latinos by 25 points last time. Harris polled in last at +12 with that group. Well, Rubin was like +22 with that group. So basically, Rubin's outperforming, not so much that he's so much better. It's the matchup between the two. And I think the issue more so is that Lake just has a brand problem, and I think she has a moderate Republican problem, and then with independents, so kind of outside her populist base. She does great there, don't get me wrong, but it's with all those folks in the middle, you kind of need to win in the general.
Right.
That's where I think the current struggle is.
Yeah, and she fed a lot of red meat to her base.
A lot. Yeah. Which is great for a primary, but then you got to pivot over. And I think, again, overall, I think she did a pretty good job in the debate moving. But again, the problem is once you kind of get defined, it's harder to pivot and move.
I'll just put it this way. It feels like Rubin Gallego got a lot more steps in moving towards the middle than Kerry Lake did.
I mean, I think he hit his fitness goal for the day.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask to see his Fitbit, but yeah, for sure. All right. So, you know what? I guess we're going to have you on next after the mine inspector debate because we've run out of great big debates. So. You're not going to watch that?
I don't know even what they do. I don't even think they even actually. Anyways, I'll say that for another time. But anyways, poor in office, but maybe they should look at its functionality in year 2024.
All right. So I don't know if this is all locked in, but current polling has Rubin Gallego up about 7 points over Kerry Lake.
With early voting starting this week, Rubin, I think, if you would ask anybody 4 years ago, like Ruben running and him being in this position 4 weeks out from Election Day, no one would have believed it.
I wouldn't have.
But, here we are, and that's why politics is the greatest show or game on earth these days, and I guess we'll see what the rest happens.
All right. Unfortunately, sometimes we're the losers of the game, we the electorate. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Only if you don't vote.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, even if you do vote sometimes. Mike Noble of Noble Predictive Insights. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you for watching the AZ Political Podcast. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for watching the AZ Political Podcast with Jim Sharpe. Click the box to watch more from KTAR News and tap the button in the middle to subscribe.